Thank you, everybody. Join us for our digital strategy chat this week. This is brought to you by Denver Data Web. We are a digital strategy company, so we help our clients achieve their unique objectives, unique challenges by utilizing a goals-focused approach to web development. So whether that's web design or digital marketing as well, whatever your digital challenge is, Denver Data Web can help you with that. So my name is David Zonka. I am a digital strategist with Denver Data Web, and we have Sarah.
I am Sarah. I am the digital marketing analyst at Denver Data Web.
So today's discussion, we do this every week now. This is our digital strategy chat. We just come up with different topics, things we want to dive into and explore. This week's discussion, what are we going off of this week? Keyword research. How does that work? Tools you can use, how to go about strategizing on keyword research, how it fits into your marketing plan. I'm pretty psyched about it because I think there's a lot of things we can cover, a lot of really actionable information for me to kind of broaden my horizons. So I want to just dig right into it, Sarah. I'm familiar with different types of like keyword research and SEO and things like that, but I mean, there may be some folks that are tuning in that are not. So when we talk about keyword research, what do we mean by that, and why do we do it?
So when we do keyword research, we're discovering which terms and ideas your target audience is searching. Searching in the context of looking for what you have to offer, which sounds a little bit complicated, but it is worth the effort to be able to create content that really speaks to your audience in their own words. If you listen to two people having a conversation in real life, you'll notice that they do use some of the same words back and forth. If not in the beginning, that throughout the conversation, they kind of move in that direction. So you want to kind of mimic that behavior with your customers and with your site visitors, not only because it creates a better user experience, but it also improves your SEO as well.
You're kind of referring to something like shared language in a way, I guess, right? I mean, and that seems like a big deal because when we talk about SEO, search engine optimization or digital advertising, all the things, a lot of times folks in our arena, in our industry, we think like, oh, we got to make sure that Google's happy, make sure Google understands, what you do, what we do. But I mean, Google's not our client, right? Google's not our customers' clients. Maybe you're doing work for Google, and if you are, kudos, congrats on that huge account. But I mean, really, like, you want Google to help you speak to your actual clients, right?
Yep. And it's funny that you say that you don't work for Google, because when you do SEO, you kind of do. You do want to follow Google's rules. You don't want to necessarily stray too much away from what they allow. And then also, when you're working with Google to improve your page rank, you do want to follow those rules. But in the same respect, you also want to appeal to your potential customers and site visitors. So keyword research, it's SEO 101. It is the first step in keyword. It is SEO. Not only because you're finding those words and using those words appropriately to reach your customers, but you're also, lost my train of thought for a second. You're also doing so to build your site content and your metadata, local listings, social content. So on-site and off-site SEO, it's all based around keyword research. You want to appeal to your customers and appeal to your clients, but you do also want to appeal to Google. And then the same thing goes for PPC. I think even more so because Google does crack down on those PPC rules, like how you use those words, how those words factor into your ads, into your landing pages. So keyword research in general, you're not only trying to reach your clients in a user-friendly way, but you are also doing so in a way where you're appeasing Google.
Appease. Google, our search overlords. We love you, Google. We do, right? They've created this infrastructure for everybody around the world to access the entirety of like human knowledge, right? That's a big deal. But when you have a question, you're like, I want to know this thing. Your search query is what it's called, what you're typing into Google or Bing. So we work with Bing too. We love you, Microsoft. That's those search queries. They're essentially composed of keywords, right? If I were to do a search for with something really silly. Like, how do I peel an apple? I don't know. Why would I want to know that, right? But like, there's keywords in there, right? Apples, um, peeling, like cutting up an apple, some sort of thing. Like it's describing like the activity that I'm interested in related to apples. And so what? Like Google is taking information, it's kind of breaking it down, trying to figure out what's the term we use? Search intent, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
figuring out like what it is I'm trying to solve, what's the problem I'm trying to solve. And then there's people's websites out there who have great resources and articles about how to work with apples, right? How to slice them up, how to prepare them in the best way. And
Mhm.
maybe they've got a really good guide, a resource about peeling apples, right? And so Google lines it up. So if it sounds like, if that particular person with that website, if they think about their keywords and they research what are the things people are trying to know about apples and do with apples, you align your content to answer those questions, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to in kind of a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. So you can think of that as SEO, or you can just think of that as basic user experience and user appeasing the user. I can't remember why I keep using that word. Appealing to your user. So, and in that same idea, it not only helps you see what customers want and different things that customers want, but it also may help you be able to break down your ideas into more digestible bits or like easy to understand segments. Um, so I always use the pizza example, but this time I'm going to use an example with like a bit more segmentation in services. In the past, I've worked with solar companies quite a bit, and
Mhm.
you may think solar companies, you may think, okay, that's solar panels, cool.
Yeah.
But within that, there's the solar panel products, there's the off-grid solar that you can use for camping or backpacking, and then there's also the services associated. And even that, you can break that down into so many smaller bits. So within the services associated, there's residential, there's commercial, there's large scale solar. And when you think of it that way, when you start doing keyword research, you'll notice that the keywords are broken down into very many pieces for solar products and solar services.
Mhm.
So if you have a solar company, you may know that, but you also may not notice to separate these things into so many different pieces. So it's kind of a long-winded example, but doing keyword research will help you see the different things that people are searching for and kind of be able to help you break those down into many different pieces so that you can organize your site that way as well. So that not only helps SEO, going back to that direction, and helps user experience, but it also helps you showcase your products in a way that people are going to be searching for and understand it, and then also be able to browse your site more effectively.
Yeah, something you said before really struck me and really just drove it home there is, um, in different industries, people talk about things in certain ways. Like they use different language that is maybe only specific to their type of industry, that people within that space would use it. Somebody coming in from the outside, they may not use that language and like, oh yeah, you're clearly not in our industry for a while. You must be new to this stuff, right? I mean, you can spot them, right? And SEO is more than just ranking in search, right? It's also about, you mentioned user experience to me. You know, user experiences, making sure like when I click through from Google and like maybe this website will have the answer I need, that's a good experience. When I get to that website, I can find it and it's helpful and it's organized well. I mean, Google pays attention to that stuff too, right? I mean, they look at all the different, all the different aspects. That's a big piece too.
Yeah, especially recently, readability and the way your site is broken down has been a huge part of SEO. So much so that the concept of local schema or schema in general has become a big part of it. And it's kind of going off the subject of keyword research, but we'll dive into it a little bit anyway. The schema concept is a way to let not only Google but any search engine know, like,
Mhm.
my site is broken down this way, my site offers this on this page, and it not only the site creator offers that information to Google, but then that can then come back towards your site and analyze it in different ways with the information that you've given. So um, it doesn't really go along with readability, but there are several different pieces of the puzzle where Google is able to scan your site and understand what you're offering. And again, that kind of goes off the subject of keyword research, but it is interesting that you bring that up. There's many different ways that can unfold.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a little bit a tangent, but I don't know. I mean, these things, they're all connected in various ways. They're not so siloed, you know, the different aspects of digital marketing. Like, you know, if you think of like, oh, social media, that's a separate thing from SEO, but, you know, like aspects of social media pages and content and stuff can get indexed and show up in search results. So, I mean, it does kind of overlap. Um, you mentioned pay-per-click. So yeah, I mean, PPC, that stands for pay-per-click, and that's referring to, you know, primarily search advertising, I imagine, is what you're thinking of, you know, what you're talking about. And so they use keywords too, right? I mean, so like you have
Yeah.
advertisements set up intended to show up in search, and what Google is basically aligning those based on the keywords that you're selecting.
Yes, with PPC, you do have a little bit more leeway in directing which keywords you place for. With SEO, it's really just whatever keywords you're using and whatever ways you're properly using them on your site. That's how you're going to rank for those keywords.
Mm-hmm.
And I've mentioned it before, it is kind of common sense. If you're using those words on your page and in your metadata and in your image titles, then those are the words you're going to place for. But it is a lot more of a manual process to do that on the SEO level. With PPC, you can directly indicate which words you want to place for. Whether or not you do, that's entirely up to how well you do with that process. If your bids are in line with other people bidding for those keywords, if your landing page uses those keywords appropriately, in theory, you can place for keywords that you're not using at all on your page. However, it's less likely for that to happen, because if there's a competitor using a keyword appropriately on their page, using a keyword appropriately in their ads, and then also bidding high enough for it, they might outrank you. But if it's a keyword where there's not a whole lot of competition and your bid is high enough, your ads can place for a word that is nowhere on your site. So it's kind of interesting how that works. But in the end, there's keywords in every piece of the puzzle there.
Ranking for things that you're not even trying to. I mean, most often that's the thing that you're like thinking, yay, lucky me, right? But I
Well, in
mean,
the PPC example, you would be trying to rank for that word.
yeah.
If you are bidding on a word that you're not actually using on your site, there is a possibility that you'll place for it.
Imagine that, throwing money
Yeah.
at it and you get something for it. Well, yeah, it's all connected. I mean, so there's definitely from the way I see it, you know, keywords are the concept of keywords and how to utilize what they mean, what that entails for digital marketing is pervasive to like SEO for search engine optimization, search advertising with pay-per-click. But I mean, are there other areas that really matters besides just not in the SEO realm?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, it does come. It's in in addition to SEO, it's largely about your client and how your site is set up. So I kind of touched on it before, but if you're researching keywords and you're finding that keywords are grouped into different sections in a way where
Mm-hmm.
your site is not necessarily set up that way. Like in my solar example, if you have all of your solar installation services under one page, you may see that like home solar or residential solar may need to be a different page from commercial solar or business solar or enterprise solar. So in that way, doing keyword research may help you see like, okay, I have one page or one section of my site that's devoted to this one concept, but maybe I need to break it down further to appeal to my audiences better. So it really just has it does so much for helping you understand how to speak to your customers, again, in their own words.
I feel like on some level it has some value in almost like market research, I suppose, right? I mean, if there's a
That's
lot of
exactly
search
it. Yeah.
intent for like a particular, if people are doing a lot of searches for, let's say, search or solar panel repair or something like that versus like solar panel installation. Maybe everybody's got solar panels in 2030. Everybody around the world's got solar panels, but now it's like, new installs is not a big deal, but like repairing what they got, right? So, I mean, it sounds like, you could utilize keyword research as a way to get a sense for, what people are interested in, right?
That is exactly correct. So, and again, that goes back to how to speak to your clients and how do you speak to your customers. And that's exactly what it is. Calling it market research, that's kind of exactly what I was getting at. Those aren't the words I used, but those are the words you used, which is kind of going back to our concept.
I'm just using different keywords, okay? These are my keywords. You got your keywords. We're lining them up.
Exactly. Just like a conversation. We're having a conversation. And that's the exact effect you want to have with your keyword research, and then also in your site content and your social media content, and any way that you speak to your clients or that you speak to Google with your schema.
These keywords, they're not just like, drop in our laps as a gift from above, right? I mean, finding the keywords, when we talk, I use the term market research, but I mean, that's an active process, right? That is a thing you're doing. It's like a project. I mean, how do you go about doing that? How do you find these keywords? How do you like determine, we talk about, yeah, more people are using these keywords. I mean, how do you get those numbers? I mean, what does that look like?
My personal keyword research first step is the common sense step, where you take a spreadsheet, or if you don't like spreadsheets, I love spreadsheets. If you don't like spreadsheets,
Nerd
take a
alert.
Word document or a place where you can drop a bunch of words and just drop your common sense keywords in there, like the words that you hear clients use, the words that you use for your clients or customers, the words that are in your business name, the words that are in your business slogan. Just drop them all in. And when you see those laid out, there'll be a very obvious kind of segmentation to where things belong. And whether or not that segmentation is where you end things, it does kind of give you a basis of where to move with your keyword research. One of the most effective ways, actually, and tools you can use, is just Google in general. I recommend opening an incognito screen so it doesn't take into consideration like your search trend habits, but enter in some of those keywords and see the other words that competitors are using for those words. You can sometimes see that right in the metadata, or you can click into their websites and you'll see all these words kind of pop out. And then once you have like kind of a good basis with your keyword research, you can then move on to more advanced tools. Google Keyword Planner, which is actually a Google Ads tool, is amazing. It's really great. It gives you so much information for the exact search terms, as well as ideas and just like trending words and things like that. The only downside is you have to have ads running in order to use it. So if you're not in that boat, Google Keyword Planner really isn't the best, because if you don't have ads running, the information it gives you is very vague and not very helpful. So if that's the case, I would move on to either SEMrush or Ubersuggest. Both of those do kind of have a limit on how many keyword searches and how many tools you can use per day. But on the surface, especially if you just want to do some initial research, those tools will be free. Ubersuggest is very detailed and gives you a really great overview of related keywords and just like grouping into concepts. It's really cool. And then SEMrush, in addition to giving you search volumes and trending words, will give you some other really great information, like competitor words, where competitors are ranking, and then also things like backlinks that you can look into as well.
I mean, it's not very great. So Google Keyword Planner. So that's pretty easy to find, I guess, if you're already using like AdWords, right? That's kind of baked into it. SEMrush. So that's SEMrush.com. So I know we use that. That's a pretty great tool and has a lot of different features. Covers all kinds of things with, SEM stands for what? Search engine marketing.
Hmm.
So it's really, it just seems like a really comprehensive product to cover all those different bases of digital marketing. And Uber suggests. So that's a pretty great tool. That's also kind of like a free, I guess freemium is the word to use nowadays. Like you can use it free for a little bit, but you may not get all the features. But that's ubersuggest.com. Like Uber, like, getting the car to pick you up.
Not related to the car share
No,
service, but
no, it's an interesting name for that. Yeah, no,
for
that
the
sounds like a
ride
pretty
share.
good one too. Yeah, so there's a lot
Yeah.
of tools out there you could use, and so I guess generally the idea is, you start with your initial ideas, as like your kind of foundation for that, like talking about the
Hmm.
services you provide, um, and then I guess it just sounds like you kind of see how that unfolds, right? So like,
Yeah. It's a
um,
pretty fun process actually to kind of start researching with the words you have and then seeing how many different variations of those words and how many different short and long-tailed words you can use. And another thing to mention is that once you have a good set of keywords and they're segmented by page or overarching concept, one very important thing to include at that point, which you typically won't find within your keyword research, is your geo modifier if you need one. If
mhm.
you're a local business or you work locally, having your geo modifier as almost like a secondary keyword or even like a primary keyword for those pages is ideal. So you can even be in a case where you just tack on your geo modifier to each keyword set. So that's a very important process too.
I wanna just like take a look at take a look. I'll pull up one of these.
Oh, cool. Which one? That one, like you were suggest.
Uber suggest. So let's take a look. So what was the example I use? Solar. Well, you use, and I kind of
Do
tack some of
solar,
that.
yeah, solar panel repair is a good one.
Is that a thing? So this is neat. Uber suggest, and of course, what is it? It's Mr. Neil Patel. He's genius. He's got a little call to action here to kind of get you to get registered. That's cool. That's very smart. Um, you got some kind of
So scroll up a little bit and then go to keyword ideas over on the left hand. No,
zero keyword ideas. So what's
do solar panel install. See if that helps. The heck?
maybe too broad? Hmm. Well,
Well, this is a great example.
awesome example by me. But what I did see there initially was, I thought was interesting, was the search volume, cost per click, SEO difficulty.
Oh, David, it's because you used up all your free ones for the day.
Bummer. Yeah, I mean, this is a freemium tool like we put, right? So you can't necessarily see unlimited stuff, but this is interesting here because it's saying 390 search volume. So number of searches this particular keyword has during a month. So, that could be people, what, like literally just trying to get some help with repairing their solar panels, right? You're saying SEO difficulty, pay difficulty. So it sounds to me there may be some moderate competition for that. There
Yep.
could be other companies, there could be a variety of companies out there trying to do SEO um, for their solar panel company, I imagine, and they're trying to offer solar panel repair services. Pay difficulty seems much higher, and so what? There could be like a fair amount of people actually paying for digital like search advertising and things on that too.
Yeah,
It
well,
could
service
actually,
area businesses in general they benefit so much from paid advertising or PPC that it doesn't surprise me that paid difficulty is higher. And the cost per click is relatively high too. It's not super high, but it is, I mean, $10 for a click, that may even be the low end. So it's pretty significant. But that doesn't surprise me, like because service area businesses or businesses that go to your home to provide a service um, tend to use PPC quite a bit. It does tend to be their that type of business does benefit greatly from PPC marketing.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things I really like about advertising in general, is that it gives you a lot of power. Let's see if I can set up. Let's try out Google Keyword Planner. I mean, we should better try that one too, right? Let me see if I can.
Make sure that you are logged into the correct email though in order to use that.
All right.
Looks like you're logged into your personal, so I don't know if it's necessarily going to work.
Get
But
results.
if it doesn't, look at, oh, it looks, okay, maybe you're linked up to
Cool.
an
So what do
ad.
we got here? Solar panel repair. So if sold at 390 again, like was shown up with Uber suggests, high competition. So it's kind of a little bit what we sold the other one. It's like, yeah, it just seems like people really trying to capture, business in that area. There's people searching on that. But what we got, keyword ideas also, right? So this is kind of like the more interesting part of it, right? Because this is giving us ideas, things that could also be things that we want to look into, ways that people are searching on repair.
Yeah, and you can see that just in the repair realm, that doesn't even, from what I can see, that doesn't even start exploring the installation path. That's all repair. So that's one of the reasons I use this example. You can see that even just this one concept within this industry, there's
Mhm.
so many keywords, and it looks like a lot of these are pretty good, like relatively high volume, but then also very usable. Like I can think of like a bunch of different ways off the top of my head that I would use these words in content.
Mhm. And some of these aren't just straight up, somebody needing repairs. This seems like, pretty clear, like solar panel repair near me for their pool, I guess. So, but look, solar panel repair technician, that could be like a company. There could be companies that are solar panel companies, perhaps, or maybe there's somebody who wants a job as a technician. They're looking for jobs that are posted. Or,
Yep, that's
I
what I.
guess that's the kind of funny thing about keyword research, right? Is and why I guess it probably takes an expert mind in this sort of thing to really think about, what does this data show? What does this information about these keywords actually mean? I guess um, the less broad, or sorry, what am I trying to think of? Like the less detailed the keyword phrase is, there could be the more of a possibility that the search intent could mean a couple different things.
Yeah, that's very true. And actually, one of the words that we use at Denver Data Web is a call to inaction, which is
Okay.
similar to a negative keyword. And if you're familiar with what a call to action is, it's something like contact our business or something like that. But in this way, it may hold on, I actually lost my train of thought.
Negative
Uh,
keyword. That's like if, let's say, um, there is some component of the keyword phrase that's not aligned with what you're looking to do your
yeah,
advertising or SEO
and
for.
I was having a hard time getting there, so thank you. It in a way like when you're posting ads, when you're which your company is paying for, your company is paying for ads. You don't want to necessarily appeal to people who are looking for internships or people who are looking for jobs, like in the service technician example.
Hmm.
Um, so you may, in your negative keywords within your PPC platform, you may want to include things like careers or hiring or internship or things like that. In addition, you may want to, depending on your business model, you may want to exclude keywords like price list or how much or things like that, just because it's, I mean, unless your business model does focus on that, you wouldn't necessarily want those searches to land on an ad
Hmm.
where people are clicking into it and then the company is being charged for it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it all costs money, right? So, making sure your spend on your advertising is very efficient. Make sure you're not paying for people's clicking on searches and stuff that, you know, I mean, I admit it. I mean, how many times like I'm searching for some company or something like that? Somebody's got some software tool, like maybe Uber suggests even, right? SEMrush, one of those things. And, there might be an ad right at the top of the list. Um, I try not to do it, but it happens sometimes. You click that first one by habit, and well, that just costs them money, right?
Yep.
That's how it goes. Sorry,
um,
SEMrush. It's a great tool. We use it, but there you go.
yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. It's neat getting kind of like all that insight into other ways that the thought process could go. So you start with those kind of initial ideas, you use these tools to see what the kind of level of interest is out there in search land, and some of the other ways that people talking about it. Use negative keywords too to kind of make sure that when you actually set up your advertising, because that's a negative keyword, that's an advertising only thing, right?
Say it again.
Well, like when you use negative keywords, that's for the advertising side. That's not like an SEO thing, right?
No, negative keywords wouldn't really apply to SEO. Unless, of course, I'm kind of like going back to the example that I got stuck on. Unless you're using like a call to inaction, then that would be a way that you'd actually use that keyword on your site in a negative keyword format, which
So
is what
like,
I was trying to get at.
sure, like you got like a landing page or something, it's a service page, and you want it aligned with the keywords people are searching for the service you do, but you may also want to quickly help people disqualify themselves. Like, hey, and we don't give upfront pricing or something. So if you're looking for a price right now, you're not going to get it. Talk to
Yeah.
us, and with a consulting person, figure out what's going to help you. Or maybe, we only serve commercial and not residential. So, if you let people know, that's a really helpful thing to do on a landing page, right? Make sure like
Mhm.
they don't spend any more time, and you don't end up getting the salesperson engaged with somebody who's just not a good fit at all, right? Yeah. Call
That
to
is
inaction.
that is very true. So thank you. But yeah, so and like we were going back to, like we touched on earlier, doing keyword research will help you see those words ahead of time. And it could be possible that a search term that you're trying not to place for has very high volume. And so seeing that, it does help you create your content and your metadata in ways where you can try and filter that out if needed, or if not, try and indicate to your audience that we don't do commercial solar panels, or we don't do home solar panels, so things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like with these tools, we can get like a huge list of potential keywords, right? I mean, the different ways that they branch out, the ideas, the keyword ideas. I mean, that can be, I mean, it feels like that could be a lot to try and work with. So, I mean, what is your process? I mean, how do you work with these big lists of keywords that these tools come up with? What do you do with all that? How do you sort it out?
It's interesting that you say that, because it is very important that you don't try and use that huge list of keywords on every page.
No?
Because not only will your content come out sounding robotic and really weird, but you're also not gonna be able to have the right pages reach the right search terms that way. So
What do you got against
like I mentioned,
robots there? I mean, come on. I mean,
well, you're speaking of robots, but the robots are gonna know if you sound like a robot, and they don't like that. So when you have a huge list of keywords, like I mentioned earlier, if you're using the process where you kind of like put down your brain lint keywords and then separate it from there,
mm-hmm.
and then guide your keyword research from that point, you're not going to have the situation where you have a huge list of jumbled keywords and you have to sort through it. But if you do, and you do your keyword research in a different format, or you don't like that process I was talking about, you will kind of be able to see within the keywords which ones belong to which segmentations or which pages. So when we use the example that you did just now with Google Keyword Planner, where you saw there were a bunch of repair related keywords, and within those words we didn't see the word installation at all. But I'm sure if you if you turn it around and put in solar panel installation, you'll see the same basic pattern where there's a huge list of keywords that are installation based. And in that same idea, you're going to notice when keywords are more product based, or more off-grid camping based, or pool solar based, So when that happens, you're going to see that segmentation and you can start segmenting out from there. But then even within those sections of keywords, you're going to kind of see that some are a little bit more redundant, and that maybe there's a certain way to say a word that doesn't really have, is like, okay, another solar example, the term residential solar, if you're looking for someone to come out to your home and install solar panels, you might notice that home solar or solar for home is probably going to be a little bit higher than residential,
Oh, sure,
just
yeah.
because you're not necessarily going to call your house a residence. So, and I don't actually know if that's
I am very fancy. What are you talking about?
maybe you do. But
I'm go
so,
take a nap in my dormitory upstairs.
so when you do that, you're going to kind of notice that like, oh, maybe I don't really want to use the word resident, or maybe I want to put it to like the bottom of my list and use it sparingly. But then in addition to that, you're going to see the words that have higher search volume, or the words that the higher search term is used in different ways, even if it doesn't have the highest volume. So like say home solar has a very high search volume, but then something like home solar for pools or whatever has a lower volume, but it still uses that base high volume term. That's, you're going to, and it's really another long-winded explanation, because it is very much a process at that point, cutting out which keywords are going to be more redundant and which ones are going to be more useful. And that's when your tools come in very handy, because it's not always something you can see with the naked eye, especially when you're in the industry and you know all the different words. You don't necessarily know the layman's terms anymore because you're past that point.
Right.
So using keyword research helps you see how Google users or how search engine users and how your potential customers are searching for things. And then it helps you, like I mentioned earlier, not only segment it page by page or overarching concept, but also within those terms, which words are going to, going back to, speak to your customers the best.
And that's the name of the game, right? Because, if you're a business, if you don't speak to your customers the way that they get it, and they're finding you, like, you're not going to be in business for very long, right?
That's exactly right. And that's why SEO exists.
Well, I mean, we'll have our personal blogs, sharing pictures of the food we cook horribly at home. I mean, SEO helps with that too, right?
It is true. It's true.
So you said something, you don't want to sound like a robot. Robots' feelings aside, as if there's something terrible about sounding like a robot, because, when our robot overlords start doing everything for us, you're going to be on a timeout list, just so you know, for saying things like that. So better be careful. I have to tell you, at some point 100 years from now, all jobs will be done by robots. We'll all be just kicking it back, enjoying our free time. But there still will be the sales job, because somebody's going to sell those robots. But so we don't want to sound robotic. And I think about, I get it, right? So if I, solar panel, maybe if you had like a keyword, you're going after like expert solar panel installation technician, right? And I wanted,
it's a very
it
long
is, right? But they're looking only for the best solar panel installation technician, right? They don't want to work with ones that aren't that great. So, but if you tried to take that long phrase or something like that, like, oh yeah, maybe there's a ton of traffic for that. What was another one we saw, like solar panel broken? So that's something that people search for, something like 210 monthly searches. So if I had like a page on my site, I'm a solar panel company and I want to help people who have solar panels that aren't working and want to get them repaired, I wouldn't have a landing page, I'm guessing, that'd be like, we can help you with solar panel broken. Get in touch with us today. I'm like, that wouldn't be a very good SEO, would it? Or would it?
That's a really good point, because the way we search a lot of times is a very robotic way. Like we look for Dennis Denver, but like you'd never use those words in that way in content ever, because it doesn't make sense.
Well, we know we're actually like trying to work with a robot, right? Like Google's a robot, AI, whatever. So, I mean, I remember reading some articles in recent times that Google's trying to make natural language search more of a thing and make it work better. But
That is very true.
we haven't really caught up to that yet, have we? I mean, not us, but I mean, like, is it really getting there?
When we're searching, no, but all the voice searching, like when we talk to our devices or we talk to our Google Homes or Alexa or Siri,
Mm-hmm.
we don't talk to Siri that way. We don't talk to Google that way. We don't say, Google, or I'm not going to say it because my Google devices are going to start talking to me, but we don't say the keyword and then find me dentist Denver. We'd say, find me the closest dentist or something like that.
You should hear me try and get directions for my daughter's swim school, right? Like there's a great one down. It's like, I'm like, I use my phone or my phone, my Apple Watch, right? So I'm just like, give me directions to Dolphin Splash Swim School in Parker, Colorado, right?
Exactly,
Like I do
but
that
that's
because
natural language.
it doesn't sound very natural the way I do it. I sound very robotic because I feel like this is what I need to do to ensure it works properly, right? So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like, I feel like on some level, I have this intuition that I need to be robotic in it to ensure like I get a successful search result. But when I actually, like if we get to like the actual page of the website, if that is how it's represented back to me, I'm going to be worried, aren't I? I mean,
Yeah. And there's a lot of different things you can do to not do that. The good news is Google is really, and I always say Google when I really mean search engines in general, but Google obviously is like the innovator and is kind of ahead on certain things for the most part. So being able to read and analyze that natural language, even from an AI standpoint, is something that they're really striving towards. And I know everyone talks about like, oh, they're hearing everything you're saying. And while it's true, the AIs, they're also analyzing how we use language and how that language is interpreted. And it's terrifying, I know. And we won't go into that too much just because that can be a whole series in itself. But
a future digital strategy chat, how to not have Google listening to everything you're doing.
So, and one of the ways that you can achieve that without sounding robotic is, and I've mentioned actually in the last one we did, you talk about your business all the time. Like if you have a business, you talk about it constantly. You talk about it to your customers. You talk about it to yourself, probably. You draft things about your business. There's things on your website that already go over your business. I'm sure if you have a storefront, there's stuff up that's talking about your business. So my advice to not sounding robotic in your site content, your social content, is to just write it naturally first. Mm-hmm. Just write it how you talk about it, how you talk to your clients about it. Just write it out exactly as you would. And then from there, you can use your keyword lists, go back to it. And what you'll probably find is that you're already using a lot of those keywords in your drafted content. Although if you're not, you also might find that it's very easy to take the words that you have been using and sub out those words for your crafted keyword set. And at that point, it becomes a very natural process. And it's really just as easy as like, oh, I use the word put solar panels in content, and I can, that's a weird example, but I can sub it out for solar panel installation. And so in that way, I mean, there's really no way you can sound robotic if you're writing it as you normally would beforehand, and then you go in and put in your crafted keywords. And it's really just about as natural as it can be. And then from there, you not only have really good content that sounds like you, but it's also content that's going to appeal to your clients and appeal to customers and also appeal to Google.
That seems like a really great approach. I wonder, when you're kind of taking your content that you're working with and you want to incorporate your keywords that have been identified through your keyword research process are going to be ones you want to target for your SEO strategy and your advertising strategy. I mean, do you have some wiggle room with that? I mean, does it always have to, if the keyword is like solar panels leaking roof, that's one here I'm seeing on the 70 searches on average per month, solar panels leaking roof. does it have to be, can you kind of modify the keyword a little bit and still get something out of that, or has it got to be exact? I mean,
In 1999, no, but now, absolutely. And Google and other search engines, they do want you to write things in a more natural way.
mhm,
So if you're using the exact keyword, and that's really the old search, the old method was to use it exactly how the keyword is,
yeah,
which like we talked about isn't always practical. So if the word is like solar panels leaking roof, you can, I mean, you can put in filler words or even just like rearrange those words so it makes sense. Like, my solar panels are leaking on my roof. Google is smart enough to know that that piece of content has the keyword solar panel leaking roof. And in the same way, a lot of times, and I don't know why this still happens, but you may see that like the keyword solar panel has a lower search volume than solar panels. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to use the plural version of that word in your content in order to place for that word, because and search engines are smart. They know that the plural word is the same as the base word.
yeah,
And then in a similar sense, what was I going to say? Like, I can't really think of a great example at this point, but sometimes the base word is actually, Denver Data Web is a great example. The first, their company name is Denver Data is the first word, web is the second word. So we have the word Denver in the first word in the company name, and we do place for Denver searches because of that, even though the word is Denver Data. So when things are, there's a lot of different things where there may be compound words that contain a keyword, or there may
yeah.
be shorter words that are placing for longer words that are similar. Search engines know the base word. They know that the base word is going to, if the base word matches properly and that you're not completely out in left field, then it's going to, I mean, we're not kind of going off subject, but kind of lost my train of thought again. It's happening a lot today. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I get you. It's like, solar panels leaking roof. Like, people are doing search that, but I mean, if I was writing it in a page, it was like, do you have a leaking roof from your solar panels or something like
Yeah,
that? Or
that would work too. But then also the one I mentioned earlier is my solar panels are leaking onto my roof. I don't know why you would write that in content, but yeah, exactly. There's a lot of different ways that you can use those words in rearrange them in different ways where it's a very readable format and it makes sense, but then you're also placing for those words.
like, are your solar panels leaking water from your roof or something like that? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
why I just used that voice. Like, switch to radio announcer voice. I mean, I don't know. That's just a bad habit, but yeah, I mean, you can make some adjustments, and, the search engine is the system behind it, this huge database. The machine learning AI system is clever enough, it's well designed enough that it can figure out what the intent actually is and line that up with, what people have to offer to answer that problem.
And actually, yeah, and that brings up a really, really good anecdote I have that's actually solar panel based. So I love that I use that example because it's fitting into like every question. But I worked with a company who one of their buzzwords was, we install solar panel systems, or we repair solar panel systems.
Mhm.
And when doing my research for that, I noticed what was coming up quite a bit was solar system as a keyword. And solar system, actually, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it has like 850,000 monthly searches, whereas similar terms like solar panel systems maybe have like 9,000 per
Oh,
month.
like outer
Um,
space, like a solar
yeah,
system
exactly.
and
So it
planets and
may
stuff.
sound like it goes along well with the business model,
Yeah.
but it's also, I mean, if you're using that word on your site, Google is either going to be like, okay, well, this doesn't really apply to these searches. And if it
Oh
is
man.
applying and you are getting traffic for a term that is really for other things,
Hmm.
it's not going to be very quality traffic. And that the traffic that does come through, you may even end up with like a high bounce rate, or just like a poor click-through rate, because people they're searching for solar systems in outer space, but then they're saying like, I don't want solar panel
Isn't that right?
installation. So
Exactly.
it's interesting, and that's, I mean, that's also another reason why we do keyword research, because if you see that like solar system has almost 1 million monthly searches, but then solar panel
Hmm.
systems have a few thousand, you're going to kind of be clued in like, maybe these aren't the same thing. So
Somewhere, the local planetarium observatory, they're getting a lot of calls about people wanting to get solar panels installed. Because we're just talking about the solar system, right? Oh man, yeah, that's a big deal, right? Because, and I mean, that's why you got to have a strategy in place. You got to use the right tools. You got to have some of the experience, understand, what the data is showing you when you look at all this volume of searches for this topic. Like, you can't just take it at face value, can you? You can't just say, all right, here's our big list. Yeah, look at this keyword. It's getting 1 million searches. Great, let's go for that. That means we're going to get 1 million calls. We're going to be rolling the money. No, I mean, what does that actually mean? What does that say about what people are trying to know, and how can that be further broken down? Um,
um,
yeah,
that's a really good question. A high search volume does not necessarily mean high traffic or
no.
high conversion rate. Um, what comes with a high search volume keyword is also usually a lot of competition.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are only going for keywords that have more than 10,000 monthly searches, um, odds are at that point that you're going to have a really hard time placing for that word. Um, and so you do want to have a mix between high volume and low volume, sometimes even no volume. A no volume keyword that you're searching doesn't necessarily mean that no one's searching it. It just means that the searches are not high enough to rank within a monthly average. So if you have a very specific service or specific thing that you want to rank for, and you're seeing that it has a 0 volume or 10 monthly searches
Hmm.
on average, there is a tendency to shy away from using those words. But at the same time, if you have a unique service and you are filling a niche that other companies aren't really offering,
Hmm.
go ahead and use those words. I mean, especially if you're using it in an SEO standpoint, you're not paying anything to use a keyword that isn't highly searched. You're using it because it makes sense for your business.
Hmm.
And in the end, you may end up being the only one who's offering that. And what happens a lot of times in that case is, especially if you're offering a niche service and there's a place for it, what you may notice is that people do start searching for it, or that you hear that, oh, you're the only one in the area that's offering this thing. I mean, high volume keywords are great. Then high volume base words are even greater, to then turn those high volume base words into longer tailed keywords that are more specific on what you're offering.
Hmm.
But having a mix between high volume, low volume, even no volume, is a really great strategy.
Well, I could definitely, see it being the case that, maybe you're trying to grow a field or a type of service that maybe that's new, or maybe you got a product that, like with software as a service products that come out, it's some new online tool or thing like SEMrush. That's a software as a service product. There's people who all the time are searching for SEMrush, right? But there may be some kind of new way to tackle the problem. There's one I was thinking about just the other day, thinking of like digital quality management, right? Like it's not like a thing I hear a lot of people talking about, but it's a thing where digital transformation was a new term at some point, and somebody probably coined it and wanted to make it their thing. I could see, if you're kind of embarking on kind of a demand generation sort of marketing strategy where you want to raise brand awareness and general awareness in like the market for what you have to offer, this new type of thing, you're going to be wanting to use those keywords in your language that you want people to find about. You're going to be talking about it in your your webinars and in your seminars and your conferences, people are going to start hearing this buzzword and they're going to start searching for it. And it'll be really good if you're already kind of been identified by Google's like, the website to go to for that keyword, right?
Exactly. And that was something that I was going to touch on, but I was like, that's going off on a tangent. So I'm glad that you brought it up. If you have a niche service and people may have stopped searching for it because it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using that word in your SEO and possibly even in your PPC, but then also creating demand generation for it with social media or with other outreach avenues, it's for that reason the search volume does tend to go up if you're not only offering it but letting people know in other ways that you're offering it and creating demand for it. If you're the first one there, awesome, do it. and
Nice.
keyword research does let you know that. It may be like, okay, you offer this really great thing and it's a really great service, but people aren't really searching for it. So it does kind of move you in the direction, like maybe use other avenues, let your social media followers know that you have this, maybe do some Google posts so people can see it. So things like that. Yeah.
Wow. Now I kind of want to dive into that topic, but we should probably cut off. We're getting close to the end of our hour today. Well, thanks for another lively discussion, Sarah. I know I learned a lot. Thanks to everybody who joined us today and tuned in. Be sure to look for our digital strategy chat every week, same time every Friday. Check out our website, denverdata.com, our YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. We post these digital strategy chats and little snippets from that. Some of the really interesting points that we cover, we always put them there. So, hey, thank you very much. And thank you, Sarah. Everybody else, have a great weekend.
Bye. Have a good one. Happy Friday.